going on, guys? Welcome back to the build for the 2004 CRF250. You can see behind me I got the bike all disassembled. In the last video you see me take the top end apart, and kind of ended up that everything looks pretty good in the top end, so the bottom end is definitely still locked up. So I got the tool I needed, the flywheel puller, so I'm going to go back at the bottom end today and see if I can get that apart. Okay, so I usually start on the flywheel side just so I can get the wire out of the way. So, but what I'm going to do is kind of take the gear off, then I'm going to take the case saver off, then I'll take this side of the case off. But first I'm going to go ahead and just put it in gear. So, seeing that the engine's locked up, not moving, I'll use that to my advantage. I won't have to back up the gear now. So this is a 12 mil. Gear comes off just like that. And these are 10 mil. And these are 8 mils, but first you want to take out the bolts for the oil filter. You can definitely tell this thing was ran when it was all messed up, because oh yeah, you can see all that. Let's see if the camera will pick that up. All that metal flaking in there. That is not good. So that's the spring. That's usually what goes in. So when you put your filter in, it goes on the back of the filter like that, and it just pushes. And as you can see, that O-ring was messed up. So that might not even have been filtering oil. So to get this case off, you got to take this oil cap off. And that allows access to that bolt there. That one's a little tight. See if I can break this free. Holy moly. Someone was out to prove how strong they were. Keep all these bolts separate from all the other stuff. Alright, that's still on there pretty good, so I'll get the dead blow. Tap around it, it'll come loose. And then your fight is always usually with the dowels. You gotta get the dowels to release the case. And that's why everybody always recommends never seize when you put these together, so it's not so bad. You can see all the metal shavings in there. Right here, see? Alright, so that's a 17. Again, it's all locked up, so you don't have to back anything up in this case. Nut and washer. And this little guy here was what was delaying the video. This is a Tusk flywheel puller for this specific model here. I don't know why Honda had to change it from their other flywheel pullers. I already have one for like a 2-stroke CR250, but they felt like they needed to change the style up here. So you put this piece onto the end of the crank, and then this piece here, I usually just undo it completely. Just take that bolt right out. That aside for a second. Now these threads here are going to go into here, so you just screw it on, and it's proper hand thread. On the other ones, on the CR250s like 02 to 07, the puller is the thread is backwards, it's left hand, but these ones are proper way. Now that looks like it's a That actually looks like it's a standard bolt, because usually a metric bolt will have numbers right here. Where you see this one has the 3 hashes, that usually means it's like that's like a grade 5 bolt, and that's usually a standard size. All right, so there it is. It's a 15/16. So that's equivalent to 24 mil. So it's the same size from standard to metric. So you just insert that in there. You have this threaded on. You put that in there, and that's going to push on the piece that you put on the flywheel, and then it's going to pull the flywheel away from the engine. To loosen up there, and it got tight again, so, and that's exactly why. So this here is going to actually stop that from coming off, so just be aware of that. Or in this case, like, really I could have just put this on and just put that in and hit that, because that crank is not going back in there. I can pretty well guarantee that. Yeah, it smells really bad in here. The oil is just burned. So you take the bolt out for the chain slider. There goes the washer. Then you can take probably take that little chain guide out there. Then you can take the chain out. So you can see all in here, all that metal in the pickup screen there. So that's never good. One thing you do want to do is while you're taking everything apart is you want to spray some kind of penetrating oil in here, because when you're taking the cases apart, this is usually this little spacer here, that's usually your worst enemy. That's what hangs up the case usually, I've found. So you're pulling, everything's coming okay except for this piece right here. If it's not one of these if it's not the front or back pieces, it's this piece that always hangs up. So if you're taking these apart, it's easiest just to put some penetrating oil in here, get that seal out if you can, and then take that spacer out, then split your cases. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to put some penetrating oil in there. And I just kind of let that sit for the time being, and I'll take that seal out first, and I'll take that spacer out before I split the cases. Breather hose off, and then that'll do it for this side until it's time to take all those bolts out. Now you want to take off all these. And that should be just an O-ring in there. Yeah, it's just a seal. So now the clutch is exposed, so now we'll take this Kickstarter bolt out, or it's going to get hung up on the case there. Kickstarter bolt out. So now just go ahead and take everything out, and then the water pump will come off, and then the inner clutch cover will come off here. Holy, a little tight. A little tighter than the 8 foot-pounds Honda recommends, I think. There's your pump impeller. And then now you take all your case bolts out. A lot of guys will like mark these with a piece of cardboard or something like that, but I mean, it's not hard to tell what bolt goes where, because usually there's like probably about that much sticking out when you've got the bolt in the right hole. You'll know when you have it. Okay, now little tabs here and here to kind of hit with the dead blow. Be good and sure I got all the bolts out. This side doesn't seem to want to go. This side's coming okay. There it goes. So yeah, hit these little tabs. There's one here and one here. It helps out. And usually when you take these inner clutch covers off, a lot of times there's going to be a little thrust washer in behind there. It happens commonly on pretty much every bike. And there's no thrust washer at all, so I'm going to definitely double check that, because usually there's a thrust washer on there. So if you take apart a dirt bike engine and there's no thrust washer in there, that usually it'll stick to the oil here and it'll come off, but there isn't one, so I'm thinking it's supposed to be there and it isn't. So, but I'll put that over to the side here. So now you've got all this exposed. So now you can just take the actually the clutch should come out first. I'll do that first. And these are just 10mm bolts. And the clutches should come out just pretty easy. This pressure plate should come right out. And then you can take all these out in one shot. Usually, but sometimes it gets hung up. Yeah, here they are. We'll inspect those later on. They don't look too bad, but definitely need to figure out if they're within spec or not. So then you got this little piece, I can't remember what they call it, but then you got the push rod. So that end went in, so go back and look before I do all this and put it back in the same way. So these are easy enough to take off. You just got to get a little screwdriver in here and then start it, and then just pound it in with a punch, straighten it out, and then you can get that master clutch nut off. I have to use another screwdriver here. I just use this one because it's thin just to get it started, and then use this one to get a little more. And then once you've got it enough, or once I have it enough, I'll use a punch to just straighten it the rest of the way. And this is going to move on you, so. Alright, so that looks good. So now I'll go get a tool to hold this. So I think this is like a 27 mil, but an 1 1/16 socket works on it. So I have these this tusk tool here. It's a clutch holder, so this will just hold your inner basket steady, and that'll back everything up while you're trying to take that nut out, and on installation too. Sometimes it can be a bit tricky, but works really well to hold it while you're taking it out. So just like that easy. So it goes nut, lock washer, and then just regular thrust washer here. Then you're going to take this inner basket out, and most times, I'm pretty sure there's one on these engines too, there's a washer on the back here, so you got to be careful of that. So then you take your outer basket off, and that's easy enough. It just slides right out. I don't think there's any kind of a washer here, and it's just, you got your basket, your outer basket, and then inside there is some needle bearings and then a collar. Keep those all together for now, and then put them with the other ones. So now you can start taking the rest of this stuff off. So I usually just start at the kickstarter here. So you just take that little spring out of there, and then you can take that right out of there. It should pop right out, just like that. Careful there's no washers or anything like that. So sometimes these have timing marks, so I'll have a quick look here. So you'll see right here on the back, let's see if I can get that. So you'll see a dot right here, like a punch mark, and then you'll see a punch mark right there. So these are not lined up, so it's like a tooth off, so you got to take it, turn it there. So now they're timed correctly. You see how the dots are lined up now? It was like this before. That's not right. That's how it needs to go back in. So put that aside, and then we'll go to that idler gear and take that off, which this just comes right off. This is not anything special. So I'll put that in the same bag as the kickstarter gear. And there is a thrust washer. Always keep an eye out for those little guys. And I believe I saw another washer right here, yeah. So that goes on the back of the gear for the water pump. and there's an O-ring right here. You always want to make note of little things like that. So now I can move on to the shift linkage here. So this is easy enough to pull out. You just pull on it and it comes out. Unless it's stuck on the other side, which probably it is. Yeah. It's a little hard to come out of the seal, but it'll come. You're just gonna have to clean that up and be easier to put back in. So these are just 10mm bolts. So you just take them out. Be super careful because these pawls have springs in them. So take them out nice and slow. And take that off first, that plate. And then these, you grab them, pinch them, and then pull them out. I'll show you why here. See those? They're spring loaded, so you don't want to lose them. They're teeny tiny little springs. So I'll grab a bag here and I'll put them right in there. And there's also a little piece that goes on there. There's a lot of little pieces on that part. And you got the arm. Then you've got the shift start bolt. So that is a 12mm usually. Now that looks like it's been red Loctited in there. So I guess they really don't want that coming out. Like, I'm not sure if this engine's been apart before, so I don't know if that's factory or if someone's been into this before, but anyway, all your shift linkages out, and again, you gotta watch for thrust washers. So there's another thrust washer there. They're all over the place in these engines, and when you split the cases too, there's gonna be even more on the transmission. So since we're locked up, I can just take these straight off. I'll find the proper sockets for these. Usually you can back it up with something like a penny or whatever, or you can just hold the piston still, but I'm not going to need to do that because everything's locked up. And I noticed there is a timing mark. So there's timing marks. There's a timing mark here and a timing mark on that gear. So I don't think you can put it on any other way. So you have to line these up because there's a flat spot right here where there's a spline missing, if you can see that. So that has to go on a certain spot on the splines. So I don't think you can screw that up. And since this is here, I'm not going to take that off. I'll take that off first. So these are going to have timing marks. I'll show on assembly, but there's going to have timing marks here because this gear right here is actually, it's a counterbalancer. So on the other side of this is the counterbalancer weight. So another washer. And then your gear. And then your bigger gear. And I'm going to put these, so it goes that way, it goes in. So now this counterbalancer shaft, you should be able to just push it straight through. But actually, I think you gotta, there you go. Just need it to the right angle, I guess. Okay, so that's the counterbalancer shaft. And I think this plastic gear here is for the, I think it's for the oil pump, but I'm not 100% sure, so I'll just put this out of the way for now. And I can take this screen out I guess. So now it looks to me like this thing can come apart. But what I'm gonna do is try and get this thing out of here. So I'll just try and take the seal out, and then I'm gonna try and take the spacer out. It's okay to wreck the seal because it's coming out of there anyways. Alright, seal out. And there's a bearing in here, and the inner race has to slip over this. So that's what causes headaches sometimes when you're trying to take these apart. See if I can get it to move. Yeah. So that's going to be a real pain. And it doesn't look like I'm going to get it out of there with the pliers there, so I'll let that sit in penetrating oil, and when I start pulling the cases apart, I'll definitely keep an eye on this, and if I need to hit it with heat, I'll do that. But I'm going to get this set up on the bench and ready to pull the cases apart. Alright, so I got the cases up on blocks here. I'm almost ready to split. The only thing is of course you have to remove all the bolts. So when you do this, make absolute sure you have all the bolts out. And I mentioned in a prior video, make sure you have this bolt here too. That's the transmission drain bolt. If you don't have that out, you're gonna break your cases. So make sure that's out of there, and make sure all these bolts are out of there too. I'm not sure if these bolts were over tightened or if it was corrosion or what, but I've never seen bolts that tight in a case before. They do look like they're pretty corroded though. That'll definitely make things more difficult. Okay, so it looks like these cases are ready to come apart now. So I'm going to just double check here, make sure I've got every bolt out. So like I was saying, if you forget one, then you crack your case. Alright, so this is my puller here. So it's not a super expensive one. I got it from Amazon there. I'll put a link in the description where I got it. It comes with a installer tool too, so pretty good deal. Trying to find a good spot to set this up. I like to pull as evenly as possible if I can. So if I go straight across from each other, kind of sorta, like that. And then one over here, but I don't think that's not going to be even. So like I was saying before, when you're pulling these cases apart, over here is always the worst because you're pulling over here and it's kind of wanting to do this. So you try and like hit it with a dead blow or whatever, but this thing here always usually hangs me up. So I'm gonna definitely have the torch ready and I'll start pulling it apart and then kind of help it with a dead blow. Sometimes if it's cocking out sideways like this, you can come over here and hit this side, and that'll in turn bring that side up. So it's kind of a process where you got to really take your time. But I'm gonna go ahead and set up this tool, and then we'll try pulling the cases apart. I gotta stop every now and again just to make sure everything's coming evenly. And you gotta make sure everything is splitting, because sometimes just little things that you might not see or you might overlook. Definitely don't be in a panic to do this. See how I had to hammer that down? That's always a thing. Always have to do that. And I think we're free. Maybe almost free. There, now we're good. All right. I'm gonna get some stuff out of the way here. Oh, no, I'm not. Oh, we're getting more debris falling out. So this is the little guy that was holding everything up. And I'm just going to clean everything up here, and then I'll come back and then we'll inspect and see what's happening. And watch out for this. This is the gear for the... Oops. This is the gear. I don't think it matters which way it goes in. This is the gear for the oil pump. So it'll go in there and it'll just turn like that. I don't know if that's even picking up on camera. Anyway, that's the oil gear. It was right there when I popped the case half off there. Alright guys, so check this out. This is exactly what I thought was wrong. You can see all this debris in here. That is from that bearing in there. So that's exactly what I thought was wrong. This is by far the worst I've ever seen. Like, I've never seen a bearing that destroyed. Usually they're kind of like seized. So I'm thinking when this thing went, whoever was riding it, like they tried to get the bike going or got the bike going somehow, and it just like it spit everything out into the bottom. And it's a lucky thing that this transmission oil, the gallery and the sump, is separate from all this, because that would have probably caused a lot of damage over in here. So now I'll take the transmission gears out and I'll put them in bags and the shift drum and all that, and then we'll get that crank out of there. Then we'll really be able to inspect it and see how it looks. Alright guys, so I'll go ahead and tip this over. I got the gears out now. As always, when you take these cases off, there's always going to be washers. So there's washer here, and there's a washer underneath there. I'm going to put another zip tie there to keep that together. Try and keep everything together until you're ready to actually inspect your gears and make sure everything's good. Just keep them all together. Don't let them come apart, because then you'll have to go into the microfiche and see what goes where and everything like that, and it's kind of a pain. So you should do that anyway, but if you don't need to, then it's always better. But now this has been freed up here now, so now it's still really bad, but I'll flip this over. I'll get all this metal out. I'll let it drop kind of on the napkin there, and then I'll get that crank out. And again, you always check in here, make sure there's no washers or anything like that. But I've checked and there doesn't seem to be anything in here. So I'm gonna flip it over, dump all this metal out, and then see if I can get that crank out of there. Oh, just fell right out. Okay, that was easy. Metal's still falling out. So yeah, there's a lot of cleaning to do. So the main bearings will have to be done for sure, because they probably have nothing but metal in them. So yeah, this is exactly the bearing I thought went in this thing. So you can see pieces of this is thrust washer is what this is for this bearing. So that is really pooched. That is definitely no good. So definitely need a crank, and definitely need a new piston. You see the bottom of the piston is all beat up there. And more importantly, but I think we got away with it, it beat up the case too. So if you can see right here, all this is just beat right to hell. So if your bike dies and it's really hard to kick over, probably leave it shut down and don't try and restart it. If it's hard to kick over, there's a reason, and you should probably investigate that before your case ends up looking like this or worse. I'm thinking I got off lucky. I think you can kind of buff this out a little bit and clean this up and everything will be okay. But this could have been much worse. You could have put a hole, you could have cracked that, you could have cracked under here, could have cracked that, anything. So I think this is kind of lucky here. So, but this has to be replaced for sure. So I'll definitely strip all this gasket off, take all these bearings out. I've got a project I'm working on to clean these cases up real nice. So I went ahead and bought a new cabinet that I'm trying to make into a vapor blaster. So I'm going to try that after. But this has got to be cleaned up really good and then inspected to make sure there's no cracks or anything like that before I reuse it. And then I got to order some parts, obviously. Alright guys, I got everything on the bench here now, and here's the damage report here. These thrust washers are supposed to be in here on either side of that rod, and there's a bearing in here and just it's completely destroyed. So that's what happened, is that bearing failed, and what most likely happened is, you know, when it failed, they probably tried to restart it or got it restarted, and it really chewed everything right to pieces. So worst case scenario is the case. So I'm pretty sure I can buff that out. that'll be fine to run like that, but you just need to get rid of all that gnarly stuff there. So I'll definitely take a flapper wheel or something to that and take care of that. And this transmission side is good because this is all sealed off from this side, so that's really good. So this should be easy enough. I should be able to take off all this gasket and then take off all the bearings. Actually, I'll probably remove the bearings here on camera, and then after that I'll probably remove the gasket and then start repairing the case. Alright guys, so it's time to get the bearings out. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all these keepers out here. There's a bunch of them in here, and then there's more on this side over here, and then there's a couple of pieces right here, and I'm going to take all that apart because this is going to be cleaned really well, and I'm going to put it in the ultrasonic cleaner and hopefully my vapor blast cabinet, if I can get that up and running. So that'll be done in the next little bit here, but for now I'll get all these keepers out and then I'll pound these bearings out. Alright guys, I got the left-hand case here. This one's similar, but it's a little different because for these two bearings here, this one and this one, you're going to need this blind bearing puller kit. So how this works is, it's the same kind of deal. You're going to have to you're going to put this piece in here, and then you tighten this in, and that piece is going to spread and grab onto the inner race of that bearing, and then you just slide hammer it out. When you take this one out, you're going to have to destroy the inside of this bearing, so that kind of sucks, but it's what you got to do to grab that lip. So all the other bearings are pretty much the same. This bearing here, you got to take that little retainer clip out, so you need this snap ring pliers for that. Alright guys, so there you go. I got the bearings out for the left-hand case here now. It's still kind of cooling down. I've got the other one in the ultrasonic cleaner here. I put it through the parts washer to knock all the heavy stuff off. I'm going to put it through the ultrasonic cleaner. That does a really good job at getting all the small stuff off. And then afterwards, I'm hoping to get this guy up and running here. This is going to be my vapor blast cabinet. So I have to wait for a few parts on it, but when I get that up and running, I'll definitely do some videos on that. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. I got all the engine stripped down. I got all the bearings out of the cases, so now I just got to wait for parts. So in the meantime, I'm going to probably be making some videos doing some little bit of cleaning, a little bit of powder coating and whatnot, because the cases look pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead with the build and order a Wiseco kit or Wrench Rabbit kit, whatever's best to order, whatever's available. They're all pretty decent kits. So if you guys want to see that and you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell, and as always, thanks for watching.